Welcome to the Dirt Time Channel. I'm Alan Halcon.
I'm Christopher Niergesh.
And today we have a personal friend of ours, Paul Campbell. Paul, how's it going?
Good, thank you very much.
For those of you who
thrilled to be here.
Loosen the hell up, man.
And I know everybody knows Paul already, but there might be one or two people who don't. Paul is the author of Earth Pigments and Paint of the California Indians. It's a classic book. And these are both classics. These are books that everybody ought to have. Survival Skills of Native California. And today, Paul's joined us because we're going to do a follow-up on Alan and my conversation about where I was schooling Alan about the necessities of cordage in the pack. Paul's going to chime in.
Well, it's interesting. We did that video, and all of a sudden it exploded with responses. I mean, some went off in left field, some went off in right field, but really, like I said, Christopher, it's going to tweak some people. It's going to go astray because of the whole cordage and how I feel about it.
Well, again, our whole point was what you should carry if you have to evacuate. And I know you had the macho point of view that you're going to rip your shirt up into strips and make cordage.
Well, it
or
wasn't
your pants into strips and make cordage.
Well, but Christopher,
and
what
I
I'm
just
saying,
carry cordage.
Right. What I'm saying, it's on my short list. I carry it. Yes, I carry it. We all know I carry it. I carry it, but I don't need it. It's not a priority for me. If I don't have it, oh well. I don't have it. I'll make do. I mean, Paul, somebody that has the experience of doing cordage and all that, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the reason the interest exploded so much is because there are so many different points of view and so many different needs. Some need it and some don't. And I recall
It depends on the person.
Here in the San Gabriel Mountains, there's so much natural cordage. Now, if you're not aware of that natural cordage, you better bring some with you.
What's an example?
Well, the yucca strips are the most common. And I recall probably 30 years ago, before I was very interested in primitive skills, I'd already read about the California Indians and their use of the yucca fiber for cordage. And I was deep in the San Gabriels, probably 15 miles from the trailhead with a friend, and his pack broke down, completely came apart. So he was carrying it with one hand, and it was such a struggle for him. He was complaining. I stopped. We sat down. There was a yucca leaf there. I stripped it off, the natural needle. It's the simplest thing. Very many people know about this in the area. And
very many people do know or
they
don't
do know about this.
It's
one of the first things people learn about cordage when they learn cordage in Southern California.
Yeah, yucca is very common.
The use of the yucca. You just strip it down and it's ready to go. You don't have to thigh roll it or twist it or anything else. And a nice piece of thread came out. I sewed that pack up in 10 minutes and we're on our way. He couldn't believe it.
And you used the needle of the yucca?
And I used the needle of the yucca to sew right through his canvas.
Was it
through his canvas.
Canvas.
Canvas fiber.
Wow.
And canvas material. And
so usually the yucca needle is not quite strong enough to go through the canvas.
No, it would.
You guys remember? You remember when Dude and I did that article with what's in our pocket and all that, and he
what's in our pockets?
Right.
Yeah, sure.
I made that net, no cordage, just straight fibers.
That was your cordage.
That I didn't even thigh roll it.
Yeah.
You know, I just used the straight fibers.
Okay.
I mean, I look around here. We can start twisting. This stuff is pretty flexible. Yeah. I'll take some of the ivy. I'll take some of the grapevines. If I had to cut strips off the shirt.
Okay, so you're talking worst case scenario with somebody who has skills and who's been trained.
The more you know, the less you need.
Okay, but Christopher, are you going to tell me that if you did not have cordage and you did not have that skill, you wouldn't consider? Hell, I've even seen it in the movies where people tie bed sheets to escape a window. You know, come on. This is
no. Of course, people could figure that out. So remember now, the reason why I had the discussion initially was because there was a single woman who lived in an apartment and she was insistent on knowing what she needed to carry. So maybe she didn't have the skills. So I mentioned cordage, and several of the people in the class totally agreed with me. Because like one of the guys, the military guys, he always carries he carries a big roll of this all the time.
550.
Because it has a million uses.
Maybe
not a million, but it has a lot of uses.
Recall too, though, that everything you carry has a cost.
The cost in weight,
and energy,
and energy
to carry it.
Well,
so the less you can take with you, the better. But of course, cordage should be at the top of near the top of the list. If you're going to carry a lot of things.
Right.
Is it a necessity to survive? Let's examine what we need to survive. We need food.
I think even that, you could almost reduce to nothing if you have the skills and the knowledge of the terrain and the timing is right and the season
Obviously,
is right.
This kind of cordage would be very handy in making a
bow
drill.
For a fire, you could do a lot with this. For a weapon.
You're absolutely right.
But your shoelaces will work too.
Listen, you're absolutely right. But is it a necessity to survive? Or could you use what we have out there, whether it's wiring from a house, a down building, you know?
Your point is that in this book, There's nothing that's a necessity to survive that you can't get in the wild. Native Americans didn't have Osh, they didn't have hardware stores, they didn't have supermarkets.
Or Christopher's insistence on having a knife as being the most important.
Wait.
Break a
Whoa,
rock.
boy.
Break a rock.
See,
break
now
a
you're
rock and you have a sharp edge. Let's start a new topic.
No, but this,
And we've talked about this. You saw that article I wrote about that.
this doesn't take a lot of weight. A little knife. But you have a knife in your pocket right now, don't you?
And I have nothing.
Everybody should carry a knife at all times.
But I have all these stones over here. I could walk over here right now and have a sharp edge and do just about anything you can do with that knife.
And we've seen you do it.
So we're generally in agreement that the things that help you survive, okay, you need some kind of a cutting tool whether you make it or not. You need fire.
But at the same time, you're right. I do carry a
whether
knife.
you carry all
Always
this or
carry
not
it.
is, whether are you on foot, are you in a group, what are the logistics of your situation?
All right. What's more important, shelter or cordage?
Depends on the situation.
No, it's not. Because
Okay.
you know what? Shelter, it's gonna prevent you from getting burned in the desert, and it's gonna prevent you from freezing.
See, I have
Shelter
carried-
starts with your clothing,
I
by the
have
way.
carried-
Cordage might get you a fire.
I've
You
carried
walked
rope
out
many
this-
times, but I rarely carry a shelter.
Okay, no, your shelter starts with
Okay,
this.
this
though.
is my shelter at a short
This
distance.
it starts with your
So
clothing.
because in this society they frown on people walking around naked, I consider shelter therefore more important.
Well, it's
than
not so
cordage.
much as that,
Maybe not you, I don't know
In the
where
heat
you
waves,
In the desert, the shade of a tree is your shelter.
Right,
Or,
I mean-
or of a cactus, or
right.
whatever you've got.
Is water-
So I would
bush.
say ultimately don't focus on things, focus on your skills and focus on fulfilling the need. And there's various ways to fill them. There's no easy answer to
Right.
that.
So if we were to
I would
take it
carry
back,
both.
Well, sure. And if we were to take this back a few hundred years before the modern conveniences of 550, what were they using?
Probably yucca and agave cordage.
Here, what
probably
about other
dog bane?
What about other areas in the country?
Cotton.
Well, maybe cotton. Yeah.
What
They had,
anything?
There's hundreds of natural
Hemp.
fibers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Flax. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wool.
We accept your apology.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
what are you thanking us
and
for?
I accept yours.
Okay,
Thank
I don't
you.
know. What is he thanking
And you
us
know
for,
what?
Paul?
And you know what? Regardless of this video, people are still going to come back and
Well, no, this
Well,
is the
it's-
last word. This is the last word.
It's to each his own. That is the
It
individual
really is.
decides.
Okay, so-
I carry as much as I possibly can, but that as I get
Then
older
why do you
becomes
critic-
less and less and less.
Why do you criticize all my knives then? I carry lots of
I only
knives
say
because each one of them
I
is
only say
useful.
they're no more necessary than cordage. That's all.
You
I'm
said that?
saying.
he said,
Oh,
I just said.
It depends on the situation. It depends on the time of the year, the location. It depends on everything.
I probably have 6 knives with me.
So-
Well, Paul, but you also have stone tools that are
Exactly.
just as sharp as a knife.
And
I
it's-
know what you've done. I've
and the
seen
lo-
your
And the
work.
longer you go, the more exhausted you become, the less you
With a
want to
lot of
tote
weight,
along.
of course.
And
It
a
all
knife
depends.
would be something you could get rid of.
You know,
Because
it's-
in fact, in Australia, some of the Aborigines are in the 50s were given knives and hatchets, metal knives and hatchets. And as they went out, they were able to carry them to their base camp. But when they went out to hunt every day, and they would go maybe 15, 20 miles from camp, they were just too heavy to carry. They went without virtually anything.
Plus,
They made tools on the spot, expediently, from stones.
Culturally, they
Yeah.
grew up learning how to extract from nature what they
Right.
needed.
But it's the cost. That hatchet was very useful, yes.
In
But
its
the weight,
place,
the
yeah.
weight was
Well,
very
okay.
costly
We're
as they went out.
comparing the weight of a hatchet to the weight of the cordage, but here's
Well,
the other
everything
thing.
has its
You know, we
value and
find
cost.
along the trails Native Americans, they would use handstones and all that, and they would just leave them there and move on to their next
of
camp
course,
and
yeah.
just pick up another
Make
stone
another
and,
one.
and continue going.
Precisely.
So it comes back to your knowledge, and I'm sorry, I stand firm. Cordage is not on my short
He
list.
stands firm.
It is
Paul.
not on my short
He
list.
is standing firm.
I
on
carry
this.
it. I carry it because it is convenient.
Like the old Oscar Wilde statement.
Yeah, right.
He knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. No.
on that note, I'm Alan Halcon, Christopher Nirgish, Paul Campbell. We'll see you next time on DirtTime.com.
The final word.
With 3 of us trying to get a final